Welcome to this Pathways into ESOL Teaching interview. And I'm really delighted to be talking to Esther Derbyshire, who is the head of Adult Community and ESOL Learning at Leeds City College. So welcome, Esther.
Thank you very much, John. Lovely to speak to you.
Right, so Esther, we're just going to talk a little bit about what you're looking for when you're recruiting ESOL teachers. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, when you're doing that, when you're recruiting ESOL teachers to work in an FE college like Leeds City College, what is the baseline level of qualification you're looking for?
Sure. So on any of our teaching job adverts, we'd ask for a level 5 teaching qualification, so something like a CertEd or a PGCE ideally. We'd ask for a level 3 subject specialism qualification, so that's the same for any subject you're teaching, but for ESOL we would be looking for maybe an A-level, maybe a CELTA or some kind of English language specialist qualification, and then level 2 English and maths as a standard.
Right. Okay. And
I should say though, sorry to interrupt, that if a candidate didn't have those things, that goes out on the personal spec. But if a candidate didn't have those things, we would accept the offer of gaining those qualifications in a certain period of time after being employed.
Any of those, or
predominantly the CertEd actually.
Right.
So sometimes we might get applicants who have a CELTA or like even a CertTESOL, something like that, but don't have a full teaching qualification, and may do it within the first year or two of being employed.
Right. Okay. And can I just ask, of those sort of English language teaching qualifications like CELTA and the TESOL certificate and so on, is there any one that you think is a better sort of baseline in terms of that English language training, or you're just looking for any of them?
I don't think there is one particular one. I think the ESOL specific qualification field is quite messy currently, and any of those qualifications like CELTA are quite EFL focused. So actually for work within an FE college, they deliver the language side of things, but not a lot of the information or knowledge about working with ESOL students who typically come for an ESOL course in college. So there's not really one above any other at the moment.
Okay. So then is it that you're sort of looking for a particular kind of experience that you might expect in a potential ESOL teacher that would make them kind of stand out a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it can really range, obviously, with different people's experience. We get a lot of applicants in Leeds who have had experience abroad, perhaps teaching EFL, perhaps teaching at language schools, which can be really beneficial, and a lot of that is transferable into ESOL and into FE. However, what is almost more important from my point of view is having some UK-based experience, and ideally either within an FE environment or working with more typical ESOL students, and by that I mean adults, unless if we're recruiting for an adult teacher, working with adults within the UK who experience the kind of barriers that ESOL students do. So not just working with teenagers in a language school, for example, but actually some of the knowledge and experience that comes from working with adults in the UK is often more important.
Right. So that almost sort of anticipates my next question, which is how do you think that ESOL teaching is different to other forms of teaching English language like EFL and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference for me, and it can be really difficult for people coming into the profession, is that it's not just language teaching. I think the ESOL curriculum is much broader than an EFL curriculum, for example. So it's not just the technical language learning. ESOL encompasses wider skills development in terms of confidence building and collaboration and all of those kind of employability type of skills, but also increased digital skills. You know, it might include basic numeracy, and it encompasses, you know, it has to encompass a lot of support that ESOL students need. So, you know, having things like trauma-informed practice or any of those other kind of bits of knowledge is really important when going into ESOL.
Okay, so the last question I wanted to ask you is, do you have any tips for potential applicants on, first of all, getting shortlisted or, you know, being successful at interview for an ESOL job at Leeds City College?
Sure. I mean, as a department, we're a very large ESOL department. We've got over 120 ESOL tutors currently. So recruitment is something that I do a lot of, and I read a lot of applications and shortlist a lot. So what I would say, general tips would be always read the personal specification or equivalent for a job that you're looking for, and in your application address what the employer is looking for directly. And it might not be that you have the exact experience, but, you know, being able to transfer and translate your experience into what the employer is looking for, I think it's really important. I think one thing that's really key and very current is use of AI in applications. I think AI is an amazing tool, and I think to enable you to redraft actually is really positive. However, as somebody who reads a lot of applications, if you submit a fully AI written response, it's really obvious. They're very generic, and the same phrases come through all applications. So I would avoid doing that if you can, and make it much more personal to what your experience actually offers. And then I think in terms of an interview, you know, bringing yourself to an organisation is really important. You know, what you can bring in terms of your personality and your personal knowledge and experience is key. But I think I would always encourage people to, again, transfer your existing experience into what you would do within that organisation, what you would bring to that department, and really kind of imagining yourself in that job and talking kind of theoretically about what you would do in that job, I think is a really important thing to do, which is quite hard to do sometimes because it's tempting just to talk about past experience the whole time. But if you can bring it into that actual role, I think that's really powerful from a recruitment point of view.
Do you think that like if people have done volunteering, is that a useful thing to talk about?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't even have to be teaching. You know, all of the stuff that I was talking about, working with adults who have barriers and difficulties within their lives, that doesn't have to be with teaching. It can be in lots of other situations. Absolutely, volunteering, definitely, and bringing in some of those things and some of those experiences into what's going to be beneficial in that role is, yeah, it's absolutely a great thing to do.
Wonderful. Esther, thank you so much. It's such a massive, really useful and interesting material in such a short period of time. We're very grateful to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.